You clicked on this video for one of two reasons. Either you're in sales and you've hit the wall, or you lead a team and you're realizing the old secrets aren't working like they used to, if they ever did. Maybe you were looking for shortcuts, some new angle to get people to buy, and that's understandable. Most of us have been sold on the idea that sales success is about sharper tactics. Less talk, mirror more, use urgency, frame the offer, anchor the price. But if you spend any time in sales, you know those tactics don't move major deals. But I'll tell you what does. Structure that gives you visibility, more on that later. I'm Andrew Phillips. I've spent over 30 years in B2B sales, leading teams and closing deals across both state and federal government, and some of the most complex industries, the enterprise space: transport, communications, banking and finance, entertainment, and retail. I've closed thousands of deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars as a seller, as a sales leader, as a head of global systems integrators. And today, I help CEOs and founders solve the same issue that held me back for years. They don't have a reliable way to know if a deal is winnable. And more importantly, what to do about it when it's not. Let's get into it. My first secret is that relationships kill margin. You might have been taught that sales is all about rapport. Take them to lunch, follow up with a gift, ask about the dog, the footy, the holiday, build the relationship. I don't buy it, because relationships can make you liked, but they rarely make you trusted. And there's a difference. I've seen it time and time again. When a rep overinvests in being liked, they become reactive and accommodating. They don't challenge and they don't lead. So what does that cost you? It costs you margin. Every time you accommodate instead of lead, you're slowly eroding the value you bring to the table. One client we worked with, let's call them Margie, had a deep relationship with their main customer. In fact, they'd actually come from that customer to work in the private enterprise. So they had a strong internal relationships right from day one, and that connection opened doors early. Deals came quickly. Communication was casual, there was mutual goodwill, but over time, the relationship shifted. What started out as a connection turned into an expectation. The customer began asking for discounts, shorter terms, extra scope, all under the banner of mates rates. And Margie, wanting to protect the relationship, kept saying yes. But the more they accommodated, the more they trained the client to expect it. And the unintended outcome of that was the margin eroded. Not because they weren't capable, but because they'd framed the engagement around access instead of value. Eventually, they were no longer chosen for what they could deliver. They were chosen because they were familiar, flexible, and close. And it became harder and harder to reset the relationship back to a commercial footing. So instead of aiming for rapport, aim for credibility. That's what actually builds impact and relevance. Credibility says, I've done the work to understand your market, your challenges, your internal pressures, and I can show you a path to something measurably better. Not because I said so, but because I've done it before in your industry with people like you. My second secret is you're probably selling to the wrong person. In most organizations, there are three types of people involved in a deal that you need to be aware of: beneficiaries, buyers, and backers. The beneficiary is the person who wants your solution, and they'll say all the right things. They'll nod in meetings. They'll tell you you're a front runner, but they're not the ones actually spending the money. The buyer is. And buyers don't necessarily care what the beneficiary likes. They care about return, prioritization, achieving budget, competing initiatives. That's what they worry about. Then there's the backer, the person who has to live with the solution once it's in. They don't always have veto power, but they often carry more weight than you think. Because if they're resistant, and they often are, they'll kill the deal. We worked with a client recently who had what they believed was a dream scenario. Their product was, by all technical measures, the best fit for an upcoming opportunity. It had the right functionality, the right performance, even a long-standing relationship with a client. The beneficiary loved it. They were already working together in a narrow capacity. From the beneficiary's perspective, this new opportunity looked like a lock-in. You're the front runner, they were told. But the deal didn't land because the decision didn't rest with the beneficiary. When the buyer and backer were brought into the process, everything changed. First, the buyer questioned the relevance of their past work because it wasn't in the same area of the business. Then the backer raised concerns about the rollout and the integration because the references were from a different region, not locally validated. And since the client had built the whole pursuit around the beneficiary's enthusiasm, they hadn't built credibility or control in the real decision makers. In short, they had the best product for what the beneficiary wanted, but not what the buyer needed or the backer could implement. And this is more common than people realise. So here's the shift you need to make. If you're spending 80% of your time with the person who likes you most, you're probably going to lose. You need to reallocate that time strategically. Start mapping your environment and assess who in the account holds budget authority, operational veto power, and long-term business alignment. If your buyer isn't also the person who trusts your capability and sees your control in the outcome, you're misaligned. This is why your client roles are so important. You need to understand whether you're speaking with the beneficiary, a buyer, or a backer, and then adjust your engagement strategy accordingly. Moving on to secret number 3, small deals earn big ones. A lot of sellers and founders go hunting for the whale, that one deal that will change the business. The reality is that you haven't earned the right to that opportunity yet, and it takes more than desire or ambition to land a transformational deal. It takes proof, it takes positioning and process. And without a structured path that builds trust over time, the likelihood of being chosen for a major deal is low. I'd like to talk about 2 types of deals: stepping stone and bedrock deals. Bedrock deals are transformational, but most organizations don't award those to strangers. They give them to safe bets, proven partners, people who have delivered before. If you haven't worked with a client through a stepping stone deal, you probably won't get the bedrock deal. It's kind of like try before you buy scenario. If you want to win big deals, prove you can land small ones first. And the last secret is this: the deal should look like you. Let me explain what I mean by this. Most of the time, clients come to you with a sense of what they want. They've had internal discussions, and maybe they've talked to other providers, and they've formed a rough picture of what they think the solution should be. Let's say they think they need yellow ones. They're saying, "We need yellow ones, that's what we're looking for." Now, as someone who knows their industry, who's solved these kind of problems before, you might look at that and say, "Yellow ones, well, that will get you part way. But if you really want this to work, you need to get yellow ones with blue dots. Those blue dots, that's your IP, that's your edge. That's the unique thing your business does that makes your solution actually work better, faster, smoother, with less risk." It could be a process, it could be an insight, it could be a design detail, or a way of integrating things that others miss. Whatever it is, it's the thing the client didn't know to ask for until you showed them. That's what control is. Control is when the client's thinking changes because of what you brought to the table. They come to you asking for yellow ones, but after the conversations, the questions you asked, the challenges you posed, they walk away saying, "Actually, we need yellow ones with blue dots." That's when you know the deal has your fingerprints on it. And that's a big signal that you're in the best position to close this deal. Because if they now believe that what they need is something only you can provide, then you're now no longer being compared like for like. So, in order to have control over a deal, you need to help the client make a better decision, one that's shaped by your expertise, and that decision should clearly point to you, because you helped design the solution in the first place. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this: sales isn't about saying the right thing at the right time. It's about building the right to win. That means credibility over charm, buyer alignment over beneficiary praise, one-off or small deals over big deals to start with, and fingerprints, not wishful thinking. That's what we help our clients do. So if you want to get your team aligned around what actually drives complex deals, and you want to close them with clarity, we run workshops that help founders And sales leaders embed this system into the way they pursue deals. I've left a link in the description if you'd like to book a call with me and our team. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.